Welcome to Backstage with Becca B with special guest Phoenix Best. Hi everyone, and welcome to this episode of Backstage with Becca B. On this episode, this DeSales University grad made her Broadway debut in The Color Purple and has since played Eponine on the national tour of Les Mis, Alana in Dear Evan Hansen on Broadway, and is currently part of the cast for Macbeth and Stride at Art in Boston. Please welcome Phoenix Best. How have you been? This past year has been kind of rough and crazy, especially for people who love theater because there wasn't much live theater going on until recently.
Yeah, I mean, I was good. I was on tour at the beginning of the pandemic. I was on the Les Mis tour, and I had moved out of my apartment in New York because I was like, oh, I'm going to be gone for a year. I'll just save my money, move back, get a different place. It'll be really nice. And so since I didn't have a place, I ended up moving home to Philly with my mom and my sister. So I lived with my mom and my sister until about November, and my mom got married over the pandemic. So then we moved in with my stepdad, and I was there until August of this year. So I was virtually home for the whole pandemic until the beginning of August. And it was a great pandemic. I got to spend more time with my family than I think I've spent in the last 10 years. So it has been kind of nice to have that bond with my family again and spend that much time, because now I'm very busy and don't get to see them very much anymore.
You FaceTime and call maybe when you have free time and you're walking somewhere.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Oh yeah. I called my mom on the way to rehearsal yesterday and I was like, hi, this is my only time to talk to you. Good to see you. And she was like, hi, love you, miss you. And that was it.
Okay, gotta go, bye.
Yeah. Yeah.
A silver lining from the pandemic was family time, getting to go home, spend time with family.
Absolutely.
So
yeah.
If anything good came out of it. So have you always known that you wanted to be a theater performer? And if so, or if not, when was the moment you realized?
Yeah, I grew up singing in church, so I wanted to be a singer. Absolutely, I wanted my songs to be on the radio, and I wanted to be on the Disney Channel. That was my dream, to have my own music, be on the Disney Channel, or be a TV star one day. That was it. And then I remember in middle school, maybe someone was like, "Oh, you can act and sing all at the same time." And I was like, "Oh, what is that?" And they were like, "Musical theater." And I was like, "Okay." And so I started doing musical theater in 6th grade, and I have not stopped since that day.
I mean, hey, Disney Channel had the best shows, and
oh my gosh,
everyone wanted to have the wand and do the "you're watching Disney Channel" thing.
I still can't do it to this day. I'm not even gonna try because it's gonna look horrible.
Even if someone practiced, it's kind of hard to do.
Yeah.
What was your
that was my dream.
Oh, sorry.
Oh,
what was your favorite
That's So Raven.
Yes.
That's So Raven, hands down. I was like, if they need Raven Baxter to have a cousin to come in, I was like, I will be the girl. I loved That So Raven so much.
Come get me an audition.
Yes. Oh, I used to, this is so crazy to even think about, but I used to go on the computer and Google Disney Channel auditions. And I know most of them were probably a scam. Yeah. And so I never actually applied for them, but I would Google it almost every day. And my grandma would be like, they're not real. That's not how you always get the audition. I was like, I know, but I just want to.
Yeah. And it comes up with the fake casting calls.
Yeah.
Stuff do you want your kid to be on Disney Channel?
Right.
Yeah, and it still does it to this day with
really?
With shows. I see ads with shows from 20 years ago, 10 years ago.
Oh my gosh.
That show doesn't even exist anymore now.
Yeah, right.
What was the first theater show you ever saw when you were like, oh my gosh, this is magical, I want to be on that stage?
I think the first show I ever went to see was Annie. I'm pretty sure. I saw Annie. I grew up in Philly, and so I went to see a lot of shows in Philly, and we saw Annie, my mom and I was like, oh my gosh, this is so cool. And so I'm pretty sure that's the first professional production I ever saw. Yeah, it was really cool. And it was right as I was starting to do theater, and I was about to do Annie in middle school. So I was like, oh my gosh, I'm playing that role. And so it was a good time.
It's such a perfect first show for a child to see who is
I
like,
think so too.
I mean, I used to watch the movie and annoy my parents and sing and dance to it on repeat, and I'm not good at singing or dancing, but like that was my favorite movie growing up as a kid, and I saw it live one time and I was just like over the moon excited.
Yeah.
It
Yeah,
was
it was really fun.
a dream. Growing up, how did you work on becoming a well-rounded theater performer?
Oh, I'm still working on it to this day, if I'm being completely honest, being a well-rounded theater performer. But I like as I started doing it more and more, I got more information about the things I wanted to do because like I didn't dance growing up. And so I didn't actually start dancing until I got to college. Because I didn't even realize that that was like such a huge part of theater as much as it was. And so I kind of fell in love with dance. My mom was a dancer. She did ballet as a child. And so when I first started dancing, she was like, "Wait, you love the thing I love too?" And I was like, "Yeah, it's a part of what I love. You know, it's one of the like major aspects of it." And so that's like something that brought me and my mom together actually when I was doing theater and becoming more well-rounded and not just like being a singer or an actor, but being a dancer and a collaborator and a creative and all of those things. Um, so yeah, it just took time to become more well-rounded, and I hope to become even more well-rounded as a performer as I continue on doing this, hopefully forever or as long as I can.
Yeah, I mean, you learn by doing, and I think you can learn more when at every show and with every cast that you're a
Yeah,
part of. So,
absolutely. And I do think the pandemic was super helpful to take a step back and look at the things that I really want to achieve in my career and look at all the things I've already achieved and be grateful and thankful for them. And then use that as the driving force to get me to the next places that I'd like to be or want to be in my career as I go along.
as a performer, do you have a tough time like not doing anything? And how did you like have that moment during the pandemic where you're like, oh God, like I'm panicking. What do I do? And are you now changed a little bit because of
Yeah.
the pandemic? So you're like, I can take a break sometimes.
Yes, yes. Without being a performer at all in general, I am the type of person who likes to have everything in order. And so taking a break is like not an option for me, just as a human being. And so the pandemic definitely taught me to slow down. And I have to be completely honest, like I'm in a show now and doing 6 days a week of rehearsal for 8 hours a day on top of all the other things that you have going on. It made me realize after taking the long pandemic break how much we as performers do all the time, and how busy we are, how fast we have to go. And I did not like taking breaks before, and then taking an 18-month break for the pandemic. Now that I'm back, I'm like, whoo, I need a whole break. Like I need at least 2 days off in order to get back to an 8 show a week schedule. But today is actually my day off, but it's not really a day off. And I kind of treasure those moments of like sitting down and like having quiet personal time to then go back into what I need to do for the show and for the week and all of those things. Yeah.
Then you appreciate what you're doing even more when you take that break.
Yeah. And also taking that really long pandemic break has made me appreciate what I do even more coming back. Like as grueling as of a schedule as we have, and as fast paced as things are, and moving around a lot, like doing shows in different cities. Like right now, I'm in Boston doing a show, and it's wild to think that like 2 weeks ago I was in New York, and then the week before that I was somewhere else. And so it's so fast paced. So taking those moments to like breathe and have your own personal moments and remind yourself why you're going so busy, or taking a moment to be like, okay, I need to sleep in today, or I need to go on a walk today, or whatever that break is for you. It's super, super important to take.
Yes, exactly. For all theater performers, all up and coming people, I feel like that's
Yes.
super important to hear that.
Yes, all artists in general, like you can love your craft and work at it 100%, but you can also take time for yourself and your mental health and your physical health, your emotional health. And I used to be a person who did not take enough time for that. And I'm thankful for the break that was had in order to look at myself and be like, these are the things you need in order to continue going on in the busy schedule. Because like taking a break is okay. You don't have to be available 24/7 in order to achieve your goals.
True. And speaking of something grueling, I mean, you probably loved it because it was your Broadway debut, but like, I read that your Broadway debut, you were a swing in a show.
I
And
was.
that is insane. Can you
Yeah.
explain for people who are watching who don't know what a swing is, first of all?
Sure. So a swing is generally an offstage cover who mostly covers the ensemble. There are exceptions to that rule where some of the swings understudy all of the ensemble parts as well as maybe a featured role or a principal role. It just depends on the show and how many people you have. But you can swing between like 3 people or 13 people. It just depends on how big of a show you have. A lot of shows that have swings and big ensembles, they appoint you a couple specific people that are like your first person to go on for, and then there'll be other roles that you should just know. But it is a little difficult to be a swing. I'm not gonna lie, I had just moved to New York and I had never been a swing before. So it definitely uses a different part of your brain.
And you're like, okay, so I'm making my Broadway debut, but also I have to learn a bunch of different tracks. How many tracks
Yeah.
did you have to learn for The Color Purple?
I had five tracks that I learned. I actually only ever ended up going on for 4 of them. I never went on for one of them.
Still,
But
only 4.
yeah. And I was also the assistant stage manager as well. So that was like a whole other part of it.
So you were doing stuff behind the scenes as well as on stage.
Yeah, so I was the swing for all the ensemble women, and then I was also the assistant stage manager. So I ran the stage left deck during some performances, actually many performances. So I had my own headset, my own clipboard. I checked places. I made sure props were set at the top of the show. I'd have to like flashlight for certain things. It was a little bit, I'm not going to say easy, like stage management is not an easy gig at all. But what I had to do for the most part was an easier thing than most stage managers would, because we didn't have flies. We didn't have anything tracking on and off stage. We mostly just had to deal with chairs and props. But yeah, it was quite an experience having to stage manage in the morning and then go on for a role at night if someone had called out, or vice versa. Like there were probably weeks where I was on the whole week where I was either on as a character or on as a stage manager.
Oh my goodness. Yeah. Did it help stage managing to know the blocking of the show backstage?
Oh yeah, definitely. I got to watch the show a lot being backstage, and I also got to watch traffic patterns from backstage, or seeing like because you see what's on stage, but there's also so much backstage choreography. There's a whole other show going on backstage. And it was helpful for me to already be backstage to see what the roles I cover do when they come off backstage, where they put their props, where they then went to the other side. So it did make it a little bit easier for me to learn my parts. It also gave me much more of an appreciation for stage management and the things that they do. Being a stage manager, it is like such an intense job, and you have so many things that like you don't even realize other than managing the stage itself, that stage managers do. And I just have to say I appreciate every stage manager out there, because you are doing such great work.
I was gonna ask, is that common for swing to also be a stage manager? Because I don't think I've ever seen that happen before in a playbill or anything.
Yeah, it's not very common. There were some. I think the year that we were doing the show, I think 2015, maybe the year before that, I think Dames at Sea had a track like that where they had a swing / assistant stage manager. And I've seen it on some tours or like smaller shows. So yeah.
Wow, that's just insane. My mind cannot comprehend that.
Mine didn't at first either. I remember when my agent called me and was like, "You got it." And then I was like, "Oh my gosh, I'm a swing and a stage manager." Like, on anything it'll say like I was a stage manager, and that is crazy.
You're like, oh, insanity.
Yeah.
Do you remember the day you made your Broadway debut?
I do. It was January 6th, 2016. It was a great day for me. I remember I was going to the gym and we had understudy rehearsal that day. So I was going to the gym before I went home to like shower, change, whatever. And I was on the treadmill and I was doing my warm up to start running. And right before I started running, I got a call from the stage manager. And I was like, this seems a little odd. Like, I never get calls from our stage manager. And he was like, hey, you're making your Broadway debut today. And it was actually this like giant chain reaction because two of our principals were out that day. Both Cynthia, who was playing Celie, and Danielle, who was playing Sophia, were both out that day. So it was like this giant day of debuts. I mean, it was my Broadway debut, and I think I was the only person making my Broadway debut that day, but other people were making debuts in different tracks. And so it was a really great moment because I at least had like a bunch of people behind me who were also like going through a similar situation of doing a new track. But yeah, January 6th is a really important day for me because that's when I made my Broadway debut.
You're like, I can't forget it.
No, never.
Every year have to remember it and have to celebrate it. It's so special.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
I'm sure the cast like helps make it special when someone's making their Broadway debut. Is there like a pre-show celebration, post-show celebration?
For our show, we like all went downstairs before every show actually, and we just like held hands. We said a prayer sometimes, we sing sometimes, and so we did that day. And they said like a special prayer for us who were making like our track debuts, and for me making my Broadway debut, and it was a really, really special day.
Aww.
Yeah.
Well, next, I want to talk about you've been on the tour with Les Mis. When did you first get cast in Les Mis?
Yes. So I got cast in Les Mis. What month? I don't remember what month it was. It was summer in 2017. I think it was like maybe the end of June or July. And I started in August of 2017. And then I was on the tour until January of 2018. So I wasn't on the tour very long. Yeah, we started rehearsals in August and we started performances in September in Providence.
Oh, so what was the audition process like for Les Mis? And were you a fan of Les Mis when going into audition? I heard someone say, who I interviewed who was in Les Mis, hadn't seen Les Mis before. And so I have to ask that.
Okay, so my audition process, I'll start with that, was a very long process, actually. I had sent in an audition tape right when Color Purple was closing. And then I didn't hear anything for a bit. And then I went and did a show in Houston. And when I came back from that show, I got a call saying that they wanted me to come in again. And I think I went in somewhere around like 9 times with auditions and work sessions, and work sessions with the directors or work sessions with the music director before I'd go in with the director. So it was like probably a total of 9 auditions before I ended up actually booking the job. So the audition process was probably the longest audition process I've ever been a part of. But I had seen Les Mis before. It was kind of wild. So when I was on the tour, we went to Philly, which is where I'm from, and it was at the Academy of Music. And almost 5 years to the day of when I saw Les Mis, we were there. And so I saw Les Mis, I don't remember the exact dates. I think it was 2013, January 2013. And I saw it at the Academy of Music. I was working at Ticket Philadelphia, which is like the major ticketing offices for like the Kimmel Center, the Academy of Music, the Mann Center. And so I had done that a couple summers and they gave us free tickets one time. So I brought my mom and sister, and I remember seeing it, and we were in like the nosebleeds because the Academy of Music is an opera house. And I remember being like, oh my gosh, that Eponine character, like I want to play her one day. And then 5 years, like, I think it was like 2 days off, almost 5 years to the day, we were opening in Philly at the Academy of Music, and I was playing Eponine, and I like cried, which I'm not a crier, so like that was a huge thing for me. And I was like, what a full circle moment for me to have seen it
Yes.
here and then to perform it there. And it was actually my last city on the tour was Philly, before I went back to New York. Yeah.
Oh my goodness. So when you're a fan of the show and when you're like when you've seen the show before and you're like, "Oh my gosh, that's one of my dream roles to play."
Mhm.
How do you during rehearsal process like find ways to make the character your own, to make the character you've seen
Yeah.
played by someone else who you loved the other person portraying the character, like you have to make the character your own now.
Yeah. I think it's a huge testament to the directing team because I went in there originally like wanting to do things that I had seen before because I was like, it worked before. And during, some of those many 9-session auditions that I had, they really told me to bring myself to the character, my personal mannerisms. And we would talk about like what's actually happening in the scene. And and on my own specifically, a lot of people want to sing it like, oh, I'm in this dream world because I love Marius. And like, if you really stop to listen to the words and what the music is doing, you hear that she's like, okay, I know I'm a little bit delusional right now because I know he doesn't like me, but you know what? I'm going to go into my dream world like I do all the time. And then it's like at some point the bubble pops and then you come out of that dream world and you're like, I know it's only in my mind. I'm talking to myself. I love him. He doesn't love me. And it's like that harsh reality of like what you're really feeling inside when you do have that unrequited love. And like, many of us have been there before. And like, I know I have. So I, use that, my own personal experiences to tap back into that like 15, 16-year-old girl who's in love with a boy, who loves another girl. And, you just want to feel seen. And I think it brings truth to the character of really tapping into your personal experiences as well as what the show already lends itself to.
Probably makes it much more heart-wrenching for the audience watching to really see someone who's like as you said, tapping into the character and
Yeah.
like their experiences. I'd be like a bawling mess.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is like, we play characters, but they are versions of real people and you want to keep them as real and authentic as possible because they are going through normal, well, not always normal, but like usually normal human emotions. And so rather than playing sad, you just allow yourself to feel the sadness and continue on with the hurt or whatever it is, because humans are complex. And so even though in On My Own, she's in love with him, she's also mad at herself for loving him. And she's mad at him a little bit for not liking her back, but she like can't be too mad. She's like a little sad. And, you got to play to all those moments that are in there.
Yes. And it's such I mean, Eponine is my personal favorite character in that show. Are you more of an Eponine or a Cosette in your life?
I am definitely more of an Eponine in real life.
Yes, Team Eponine.
Yeah. Definitely more of an Eponine than a Cosette, but Cosette has such beautiful moments as well. Getting to see the show, because I remember when I first saw it, I was like, oh, I'm Team Eponine all the way.
Yeah.
And then actually like being a part of the show, you see like what Cosette has also gone through in order to get to where Cosette is as well. It's so heart-wrenching for everyone, really.
Oh my god. And it's such like the show itself, it's like dark literally and figuratively.
Mm-hmm.
Because like I mean, I had seen the movie and like the performances, like the O2 performances and stuff, but I hadn't seen it live before like a couple years ago and I was like, okay, the lighting is like very, very, very dark.
Oh yeah.
Too.
Yeah, because I think they want you to hone in on very, very specific moments. And not that lighting is distracting by any means, but I think they don't want you to be distracted by anything. They want you to really watch and like, yeah, I think the lighting design is so cool in Les Mis. And yeah, we also did the version without the turntable. So we had the projections behind us that really kind of helped tell the story as well.
Ooh, love that. How do you prepare to go on a national tour and be on the road? Because that of itself to pack up and be like, okay, I'm gonna be on the
Yeah.
road for who knows how long.
Yeah, it was difficult because I am a heavy packer. I don't know how to pack light. If I'm going away for a weekend, I need at least 6 outfits just in case.
Right.
So packing for tour was quite difficult. Also, I had moved around a lot within the same area, but moved around as a kid. And so moving around each city was a little difficult for me at first, just because I'm a creature of habit. So, like, once I'm comfortable in a space, I'm comfortable. But tour is like you get comfortable, and then that next Monday, you're off to a new city. And so you don't really have that time. So, I was thankful I got to have like 2 stints on the tour. That first stint that I did, and then I went back right before the pandemic. And that time around, I kind of knew what I was getting into. I knew what I needed to bring. You always want to bring things that make you happy. And I always brought a lot of like food, seasonings, because I love to cook now. And
Ooh.
I didn't the first time around, but I love to cook. So I was like, I need to make sure I have my specific seasonings at all times when I go to a new city, or like my Keurig, like I like to have my coffee and I like to have it exactly the right way every day. So like those little things that you would normally do in your day-to-day life, it doesn't matter where you are. If you have those small things that keep you happy, then you'll stay happy.
Exactly. Like for me, like when I'm going to different places, like I have to bring my dog with me. It's not
Oh
even
yeah.
a question. I
Yeah,
have
absolutely. Like I brought my Keurig here to Boston because I was like, there is no way I'm not having my coffee every morning the way I like
yeah,
it.
yeah, you're like, who knows if like a hotel or something is gonna or an Airbnb is gonna have
Right.
the right setup for my coffee.
Yeah.
True, very important. So, when you're on the road, how do you work on vocal health when
Oh.
traveling and singing 8 times a week? Because that is difficult.
It is. It definitely is. And I feel like I'm always the worst person to answer this question because I was not really trained growing up. And so I didn't start doing voice lessons until I got to college. So I use like the few like tips I got when I was in college. And by few, I mean a good amount of tips, of
Yeah.
course, but the ones that worked for me. I think the biggest thing is like hydration. Like I drink a lot of water. And also sleep. Like as much sleep as you can get is a huge thing because our off days are Mondays, but that's also sometimes our travel day on tour. So like you're spending the whole off day traveling to the next city, which can be draining in its own regard too. And I think just like pacing yourself. Um, we usually know our own voices. And so if you know that certain things aren't going to be good for you, like don't do it. Like I'm not a person who like can't have ice cream or can't have cheese before I sing. Like I love to eat cheese before I
Yes.
sing. I love to eat ice cream before I sing. Doesn't bother me. But like I know I can't have chocolate. Chocolate is the one
Oh,
thing that if I had it, I would have the worst performance of my life.
you're like, can't do it.
Can't do it. So like I avoid chocolate, but I don't really do too many other things. I mean, I warm up most times. I like to warm up in the shower just because it's like the easiest place to warm up before the show. Physical warm up is super huge, especially for that show for me. Eponine is kind of like tossed around, and there's a lot of fights, and it's a lot of physicality. So I liked to do a little like 10-minute warm up. I'd get to the theater like 10 minutes earlier than fight call sometimes so I could physically warm up and keep my vocal, because like physical health is also super helpful for your vocal health when you're singing, for me at least.
Now, I'm curious. I've never asked someone this before. Do the
Yeah.
older Eponines and Cosettes like help the younger Eponine and Cosettes with character development when they're on stage? Because Eponine kind of
No,
like
not really.
the little Eponine has like a little small part kind of before
Hmm.
where you kind of get to see her. Then
Yeah.
Cosette gets Castle on the Cloud and
Yeah.
gets a little introduction. But I was just like wondering, like, how does that work? How does the connection between when they're young and when they're older work if you all worked with them?
Yeah. We didn't really work with them on like, you know, what they were doing versus what we were doing. That's more of like what the directors do. But I will say one thing, that Jillian Butler, who was playing Cosette, she and I are super close, and we would like hang out with the kids. A lot of times their dressing room would be kind of close to ours too. And so we just kind of like had a personal relationship with them, which I think was really huge for like being on stage if they're going to play like the younger versions of us. But we didn't really give them like notes on what we're doing or what they're doing.
It probably just like helps them be a little more like familiar with like who they're playing in a way.
Yeah. Yeah.
So what made you decide to go back to Les Mis tour?
Well, I had actually already left Dear Evan Hansen at the time. And so I was just like in New York. I was doing a lot of concerts at 54 Below. And I was doing a lot of master classes and things like that. And one day randomly, I got a text from Jillian actually being like, hey, do you know that Paige is leaving? Because like everyone knew I was like not really doing anything at the moment, like theater wise. And I was like, oh, wow. And she was like, you should tell your agents if you want to come back. And I was like, oh, yeah, maybe I'll reach out to them in the morning. Like, I'd love to come back. I'd love to like go on tour for, a brief minute. And weirdly enough, I didn't say anything to my agent that night because like it was the end of the day. The next morning, I woke up, had my breakfast, and my agent called me, and he was like, hey, so they want you to come back.
Hey!
And I was like, oh my gosh, absolutely. How perfect. I will definitely be coming back.
Mind readers.
Yeah. And it was kind of nice too, because I had a nice little break in between the two shows. Because as we talked about before, breaks are super important. At the time, I was like, oh my gosh, I'm having this long break. I don't know what to do. But now looking back, like it was very needed for me personally. And I'm glad it worked out the way that it did. And Paige went off to Hamilton, which was so fantastic for her. And then I got to like come back, and it was also easier for them to bring me back because I had already done it. And they also had a lot of my old costumes. So surprisingly, I was able to fit into my costumes because, like everyone, changes. But a lot of my costumes ended up still fitting me, and I got to like join the company within a week.
But I was gonna say, like, it says a lot about the company and about like who's in the cast and crew when someone wants to go back to a show that they've already done.
Yeah,
rejoin.
absolutely.
So,
Yeah. And there were a lot of people who were still there from the beginning when I rejoined. So it was really nice because it was like going back to another family that I had.
yes. And speaking of another family, you were in Dear Evan Hansen on Broadway.
Yeah.
When you auditioned for Dear Evan Hansen, did you know how big it was already? Did you have any idea?
Yes and no. Dear Evan Hansen was in previews across the street from us at Color Purple. So I had seen them move into the theater, and I saw people, but I was just like, oh, okay, yeah, like it's a show. But when I got the audition, I had not heard any of the music. So I didn't really know the show at all, which is kind of crazy. And so I like learned Good For You. And I learned the Alana sings like Waving Through a Window reprise. I learned that as well. And I was like, oh, okay. And as I was like looking up the show while I was learning the material, I was like, oh, wow, the show is actually like very well known and like very popular. And I, ended up auditioning, and it was a very fast audition process, actually. It was about like 2 weeks, maybe.
Easy compared to Les Mis.
Yeah, exactly. Like I only went in 3 times for Dear Evan Hansen, and they were at the process of about to start the Tonys when I got cast, because I originally got cast as the Alana vacation cover.
Okay.
Crystalline Lloyd, who was playing Alana at the time, who's actually my roommate in New York. Yeah, Dear Evan Hansen bonded us, and now we're roommates. But yeah. But she was playing Alana at the time, and she was going on vacation, and they only had one cover for both girls at the time, Olivia Puckett, who was understudying both Alana and Zoe. And so they just were bringing me in for 2 weeks, 1 week of rehearsals. And then the other week when Chrislyn was on vacation, Olivia was playing Alana all week, but they had me there in case anything happened, like in case Laura got sick or, couldn't make it to the show or whatever. And I was never supposed to really go on. I was just there like as like a huge in case. And then Laura one day got sick. And so Olivia ended up having to go on for Zoe, and I went on for Alana, and I went on with the original company. And it was a crazy experience because I only had 1.5 weeks of rehearsal before I went on. And they had just won the Tony that Sunday. So it was like this crazy whirlwind. It was so much pressure. I remember the last scene, I didn't even know the lines to the scene yet because I had just been learning it. So it was really crazy. And my mom and sister were actually just happened to be coming to the show that night. Cause I was like, oh, I'm in Dear Evan Hansen now. Like it's this really like popular show. And I was like, do you want to come see it? And they were like, yeah, sure. I was like, I'm not going to be on, but like, I'll get you tickets for Friday night. And then we were supposed to go to dinner after rehearsal and they were going to come see the show. And I got a call on the train being like, you have to be on. So I called my mom and I was like, I'm sorry, we can't go to dinner. I'll just meet you at the theater because I'm going on. And my agent, I got to call him and he came to see the show. They got him in to see it. So it was like such a special moment.
It's like some things are really meant to be, like the Les Mis touring in Philly and you ending the tour in Les Mis the first time you were on the tour in Philly. Like that seems like it was meant to be. And then, I mean, what a coincidence you're on when your mom comes and sees the show.
Right. It was so awesome. And like my mom and sister I had got them standing room because I was like, oh, you just want to see the show. Like I'm not into just, I mean, like they could sit, if I wasn't in the show, but they were just like, oh, we'll do standing room. And one of the ushers was talking to them at intermission and they were like, here's 2 seats for you. And they got to sit for the second half. It was really nice. Yeah.
Aww. So the characters in Dear Evan Hansen, they're so 3-dimensional. Did it help when learning the role of Alana to not be as familiar with the show beforehand?
Yes, I definitely think that was helpful because at the time, like when I did it for that one show, they were mostly just trying to teach me the blocking and the song, the lyrics, all of those things. They just wanted me to know like the fundamentals. And that rehearsal before, which was our last understudy rehearsal for the whole time that I was going to be there before I went on that night, we started talking about more about who Alana was and things like that and like what's behind all of these scenes. And so it was kind of nice because I had seen Chrislyn do it a couple times and I had seen, of course, Olivia do it over that week while I was still learning. And I got to see 2 different versions of it like right away. So I got to bring my own piece to it. And then when I rejoined back in March of 2018, then we really took the time to be like, okay, who was Alana to you? Rather than like trying to make me fit into what anyone else has done as Alana.
And I feel like one of the things that the Dear Evan Hansen fan base and the type of fan base that Dear Evan Hansen is really appreciates is seeing different people play those roles and getting to see how different people portray their favorite characters in new ways or in different ways than they've seen in the past. So that's really cool. How do you separate yourself from a character in such an emotional show so you don't like take the show home with you and like get like it's emotional? Dear Evan Hansen is like you're sobbing by the end of like Act 1. So
it was actually like kind of easy for me because Alana doesn't really tap into like that like sad emotion until like the second to last scene that she has. She's mostly a person who's like very on top of it. She wants to have friends, and she is like very like, here's the list of what I want to get done, and I want to be friends with you, and this is what we're going to do, and this is how we're going to achieve it, and we can also do this, and you know what, let's do that, and let's do that. So like, she doesn't have to go through that emotional turmoil, because Evan's the one really going through it, because he has all these things going on behind the scenes that like Alana and Jared just do not know. Until Jared calls it out, and then Alana calls it out, and they have this huge blow up, which is, you know, the scene before Good For You, and then Good For You, and then Alana has one more scene where her and Evan have this giant fight, and like that is it. And then I think it's really helpful because she has that fight, and then Alana's not on stage for like maybe like 20 minutes or so before we all come back on for the end. So I use that 20 minutes to just like get back to Phoenix and not use the argument and the fight that Evan and Alana just had, and take that with me in the rest of my day. I think it's super important that when you're doing a show like that, you take a second for you to like bring it back to where you are, where you're about to go, and then walk out of the theater and like release it, because you can't really carry that with you every day.
I mean, it's such a wonderful show. It's just super, like super, super, super emotional.
Yeah.
I mean, did you come home like singing all the songs and stuff? Did you have all the songs stuck in your head? Because
yeah,
great, I had them stuck in my head.
Oh yeah, because I hadn't like heard the show really. I was learning them, and as I was learning them, I was like, oh my gosh, I can't get this like song out of my head. And it wasn't even like generally songs I was singing. It was like Sincerely Me. Like I couldn't get that stuck out of my head.
Exactly.
More than anything. Yeah.
Oh my God. That song is like, it was like my jam for like 6 months. I was like, not gonna stop listening to this song.
Yeah.
What was your favorite song in the show?
I'm gonna say it's So Big, So Small. The first time I saw Dear Evan Hansen, so it was like the Friday before I was about to start rehearsals, the Friday right before the Tonys. And I don't think Ben was on actually. I saw Colton, and I saw Rachel, and my mom and I had this like, it wasn't like an argument or a fight or anything, but I was just like frustrated with my mom, and she was probably frustrated with me. And I saw So Big, So Small, and my mom's a single mom. And I just remember thinking like, wow, my mom does so much for me, and I'm not always super appreciative of it. And I feel like a lot of kids and parents on both sides who aren't seeing eye to eye can kind of take that moment and understand each other a little bit better. And so I really enjoy that song. All the women who I've seen play the role and sing it like bring so much emotion to it. And I remember calling my mom afterward and be like, I'm sorry that I frustrated you, and I love you, you know? And then she saw it the first time, and she came back and she was like, I love you, you know?
It's a beautiful scene.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful scene. Like you have to, when you really listen to the words, just, oh my God.
Yeah, absolutely.
Crazy emotional. So is there anyone, last Dear Evan Hansen question, is there any, maybe second to last actually, is there anyone, okay. I know that Dear Evan Hansen attracted a lot of people coming to see the show. Is there anyone who you were starstruck by when they came to see the show and visited backstage?
Oh gosh. Okay, so this person came to the show, but I wasn't actually in the show at the time. I was visiting the show. I believe it was in between when I was like there and then was about to leave to go to Les Mis, and then before I came back again. And I saw and met RuPaul. And RuPaul looked at me and was like, hey. And I'll never forget it. It was probably like one of the most amazing moments of my life. I was like, did RuPaul just say hey to me? To me? I was like, I wasn't even in the show today. And you said hey to me? Like that was probably like the most starstruck moment I had.
You're like, hi, what's my name again?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And
Love
like
it.
the most fabulous suit too. Oh my gosh, it was so amazing.
Oh my God. So you're like, where did you get your suit? What is English? How do I speak?
Yeah.
Starstruck. So why do you think people love Dear Evan Hansen so much?
I think because there are a lot of different characters that people can connect with. And I think it goes back to what my favorite song is. It's not just a show for teenagers. It's also a show for parents to kind of understand their teenagers a little bit more. Like, I can't tell you how many people I would see come to the theater, and like you'd see the dad that was like dragged to the theater and he like doesn't want to be there, but his kid wanted to see it. So he paid for the tickets and they're all there. And like the kids are so excited. The mom's like kind of excited because she loves Broadway, and the dad's just like, I'm here and I'm here because I love all of you, which is totally fine. And then, breaking a glove would happen, or like Sincerely Me would happen. And you'd see the dad at the end being like we turned him to being a theater person, and those types of things always like made me excited. And I think that's why people connect with the show, is because like it just reveals like everyone is human.
Yes.
Kids, parents, whoever, like everyone is human. Everyone is looking for a connection. Everyone wants to be loved in some regard. A lot of people want to be liked a lot too. And so everyone can connect with either one character or multiple characters, or see different parts of themselves. And you also get to see the characters in like their best light and their worst light. And I think that's a big part of it, is like people see the show and they recognize that like it's okay not to be perfect. And I think that's why everyone loves You Will Be Found, because it lets you know that like everyone should have a moment to be seen in their truest self, and they should be loved for who they are. You shouldn't have to change who you are. You shouldn't have to change the way you look or the way you dress or the way you feel or who you love or whatever. You shouldn't have to do any of those things to make other people happy or proud of you. And I think that's what draws people to the show, is it is a show about community, and it's about a lot of different communities, and it's kind of like bringing everyone together for one purpose, which is just like all around love.
And it's so like I was saying that the characters are three-dimensional. The show itself is so three-dimensional, as like
Mm-hmm.
you can see the show multiple times and pick up new things and pick up like new moments you
Yeah,
appreciate every time you see the show.
yeah, absolutely.
So you're in rehearsal process for a show right
Yeah.
now.
Yes,
What
yes.
show is that? Can you talk a little bit about that show, or
Sure.
do you want to tease it?
Yeah, sure. I am doing Macbeth in Stride at ART in Boston. It is written by Whitney White. She is an absolutely amazing writer. She wrote not only the adaptation of the script, because like there is Shakespearean text as well as contemporary text, which makes it like really cool. She also wrote the music for it as well, and it has this like rock concert vibe, and it's also told from the perspective of Lady Macbeth rather than Macbeth himself. And it kind of points to how in Shakespeare's Rolodex of shows, how when women become strong enough or powerful enough or smart enough, they get killed off, or they become crazy, or they have to attach themselves to a man in order to further themselves. And she's like taking a magnifying glass to that and adding music and contemporary language. And it's really, really cool. We are currently in tech. It is a wild process. I've never done a show like this before. And it's really cool. It's at the Loeb in Cambridge. Yeah, we're on the Harvard campus, which is really cool because I've never been to Boston.
Oh, and I've heard Boston is stunning.
It is. It's really beautiful, and it's fall, so it's really
Yeah.
nice to be in Boston during the fall time. That's why I have my jacket on. And we're thinking about going to Salem because it's so close, because we'll be here over the Halloween season. And yeah, the show is just truly, truly phenomenal. And Whitney has done such a great job of writing this show. It's actually one part of a 5-part series that she is doing of looking through different shows. Yeah.
Wow. And you get to help bring a show to life in its beginning stages, which is like everyone's dream.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
It's
Absolutely. Yeah, there's only 5 of us actually in the show. There's Macbeth, Lady Macbeth, and then 3 witches, and that is it.
my goodness.
In the show. So yeah, it really like shortens the storyline so that it can really focus on the story of Lady Macbeth.
So everyone like has their time to shine on that stage then too.
Yeah.
Oh,
And the costumes are so cool. We put them on for the first time yesterday. They're so sick.
so how can people come see the show? I don't know much about art. I've heard about it.
Oh yeah. Yeah. You can come see the show. I think we open on the 28th of October and we run until November 14th. You can get tickets at the ART website. I don't know the exact
I'll find it in post.
www. Yeah, but if you're in the Boston area or like close and want to see a live theater, we'd love to have you. It's such a cool piece and the lighting is absolutely cool too. I'm just like going to talk about each little portion of it. It's really amazing and I'm so thankful to be a part of it.
You're like fangirling about my own show. It's cool.
Yeah. Oh, truly. I'm a Whitney White fangirl and the show just looks so amazing and I'm excited for audiences to come see it. We start previews, I believe, next Tuesday.
That's so exciting.
Yeah.
That's amazing. And I'll post the link where people can buy tickets below in the description. Okay. So great. If you could revive any Broadway show and be in it, I know like this is your dream probably right now to be in the beginning stages of a show, but if you could revive any Broadway show and be in it, what would it be?
Oh, I don't know. Probably. And like, I've heard that like, anyway, I'm going to say 2, because I've done both of them before in like other capacities and I'd love for them to come back to Broadway, either Aida or Dreamgirls.
Ooh, I saw that you've done Dreamgirls before and
yeah.
Yeah.
I had such a great time doing it. And I have a lot more knowledge and a lot more experience now than I did when I did the show. So I'd like to like have another shot at it.
I heard that the Aida tour got postponed, but hopefully it comes back and is planned again.
Yeah, I hope so too. I don't know much about it, but I hope it does come back because if I can't be in it, I would love to see it, you know?
Yes. And I've heard a lot of people recently even who are like Dreamgirls revival win. So perfect 2 shows.
Yeah.
So how do you work on self-confidence in such a tough industry?
Ooh. In all honesty, I'm not gonna lie, I have to be a little bit delusional. But also, I think one of the biggest things is that a lot of times, like reasons I don't get a role, or people in general, reasons we don't get a role or get the thing that we wanted the most is just because it wasn't the right thing at the time. And it doesn't mean that you're not a great performer. Some things are just not meant for you, or sometimes they're not meant for you in that moment. And I have to remember that there's no other performer out there like me. There are people who can be somewhat similar to me or are the same height as me, the same build as me, the same whatever. But there's not another Phoenix Best in this world. There actually isn't. But there's not another Phoenix Best in this world or in this industry. And I can only bring me. And if I try and bring someone else, that's going to be really difficult because that person's already doing that. And that is where I find my biggest self-confidence is knowing that like I am one of a kind and my talent is one of a kind and what I have to offer is like none other. And if it doesn't work out, that's okay. There's always something that will work out. And yeah, that's like the biggest thing of self-confidence is also knowing that has to come from within and can't really come from other people. That's why it's called self-confidence and not others' confidence, I think a lot of times we try to find our self-confidence in other people, and we have to be our biggest cheerleader and our biggest fan. We may not always like love things about ourselves or like things about ourselves, but overall we should love who we are and what we do and why we do it, and remember that your happiness is one of the biggest things. And so my happiness brings me self-confidence too.
I mean, and I think it's important to go along with that. I think it's important just like to not compare yourself to everyone else on the internet. Like that's one of the biggest things that people in our generation do. They're like, let me go on the internet and on Instagram and scroll for hours and compare myself to others.
The comparison game is really hard. And I think it's okay to be inspired by others. But when that inspiration becomes desperation to be that, it becomes hard because that person is already being that. And you can gain things that person might have, but at the end of the day, you're still always going to be you, and you got to love who that person is. Because, we're all human. We all want more things for ourselves or better things or different things. And that's okay to see someone succeeding. I have this quote on my wall that says, just because other people are getting the things that you want faster than you does not mean that they are still not attainable for you. And I think we are a people of like immediacy. And so when we see someone else getting the thing that we want, even though we worked really hard, it discourages, and that's okay, but it shouldn't stop you from pursuing it, because what's meant for you is going to find you.
Yes. And I like the distinction between inspiration and comparison.
Yeah.
That's important to remember. So lastly, whether it's theater related or not, did you do anything in quarantine or in this past year that you want to promote?
Oh, not really. I mean, I did do my my first like independent film in LA. It was really cool. I don't know how to promote it or where people will be able to see it, because it's actually a virtual reality experience that you can watch. Like it's a film through VR, which is really cool. So when I get more information, I'll definitely post about that. But that's really the one thing that I could promote.
That's really epic.
Yeah, it was a really fun experience.
Ooh.
Yeah, I still haven't even seen it yet. But I know that they're trying to like take it to like schools so people can like see it, because it's about like, it's like a short film about like climate and things we can do to help the earth around us. Yeah.
Wow, but like that's such a like different original project.
Yeah.
Say you filmed something that's virtual reality.
Yeah, filming with a 360 camera was kind of crazy.
Wow. So where can people find you on social media to keep up with what you're doing?
Yeah, I am Phoenix__best on all social media platforms. So like Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, but I don't really post on TikTok. I just like watch everyone's videos and crack up. Maybe I'll post on TikTok soon, but those are the 3 places that you could probably find me, and that's my handle.
Perfect. And I'll post all the links in the description below. Thank you so much for coming and talking.
Thank you. I had such a great time. Thank you for asking me to be here.
Of course. And I loved your answer about self-confidence. It's very, very inspirational, and I think people can learn a lot from that answer.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, I definitely needed a conversation about self-confidence just today too, so that was helpful.
Thanks for watching this episode of Backstage with Becca B. You can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at Becca B Talks TV. Or for more exclusive content from this interview and more, you can follow me on Instagram and Facebook at Backstage with Becca B. Make sure to subscribe to my channel and like this video, or if you're listening on Apple Podcasts, go ahead and give me a 5-star rating. Thanks for tuning in, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye!